Okay, imagine this. You're falling from a plane at 10,000 feet, still strapped into your seat as the world just disintegrates around you in a storm. And then you wake up, alone, on the floor of the Amazon rainforest. Now, this sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, right? But it's the incredible true story of a 17-year-old girl. And trust me, it holds a powerful lesson about what it truly means to survive. So let's set the scene. It's Christmas Eve, 1971. Lanza Flight 508 takes off in Peru. You've got 92 people on board, all just trying to get home for the holidays. But that plane never landed. Out of 92 souls, 91 were lost in the crash. You know, when a plane just vanishes from the sky and crashes into the heart of the Amazon, that's usually where the story ends. For days, the entire world believed this was just another awful tragedy, with no survivors. But in this case, the story was really just beginning. The flight actually started off with a pretty festive mood, but for 17-year-old Julianne Kopkak and her mother, getting on this plane was a last resort. All the more reliable airlines were totally sold out, so they were forced onto a carrier that had, let's just say, a really bad reputation for safety. It was a decision that would change everything. As they got closer to their destination, the pilots made a fatal choice. They decided to fly straight into a massive storm. The turbulence got so violent that luggage and Christmas presents were being ripped out of the overhead bins. And then, a blinding flash. Lightning struck the right wing, the fuel tank ignited, and in an instant, the plane was torn to pieces in the sky. While other passengers were flung out into the open air, Julianne somehow remained belted to her row of 3 seats. And then she started to fall. We're not talking from a few hundred feet, not even 1,000. She fell from 10,000 feet. That's nearly 2 miles straight down. So the big question is, how is that even possible? I mean, it seems to defy physics, but her life was saved by this miraculous, almost unbelievable combination of 3 factors. First, you have these powerful updrafts from the storm itself, which actually slowed her down. Second, her whole row of seats started spinning like a maple seed, creating drag and acting kind of like a makeshift parachute. And finally, she crashed right through the dense jungle canopy, which acted as a massive, chaotic, but life-saving cushion. She woke up the next morning. It was Christmas Day. She was all alone, covered in mud, in the middle of the Amazon. And get this, by this point, the official search and rescue mission had already been called off. To the rest of the world, including her own father, she was gone. She was alive, yeah, but barely. Her body was just a wreck. She had a broken collarbone, a sprained knee, deep gashes everywhere. One of her eyes was swollen completely shut, and she'd lost her glasses, so she was practically blind. And on top of all that, she had a severe concussion. But here's the thing. Julianne wasn't an ordinary teenager. Her parents were famous zoologists, and she had literally spent years living with them at a research station deep in the Amazon. She knew which creatures were venomous, which plants were safe, and maybe most importantly, she knew the first rule of survival: do not panic. So after looking for her mother and any other survivors with no luck, Julianne knew she couldn't just stay put. She had to move. But I mean, in this endless sea of green, which way do you even go? Luckily, she remembered a single, vital piece of advice from her father. This was it. This was her one and only strategy. She found a tiny little spring bubbling up from the ground and just started to follow it. The logic was simple. A small stream would lead to a bigger stream, which would eventually lead to a river. And somewhere on that river, she hoped, she would find people. This journey was a living nightmare. The terrain was just brutal. She was wading through water with alligators, constantly on the lookout for deadly snakes and spiders. At one point, she actually stumbled upon a row of seats from the plane with 3 passengers still strapped in. Just a horrifying sight that made her fear the absolute worst for her mother. The only food she had was a small bag of candy she'd found in the wreckage. And then, a moment of pure hope. She heard it. The sound of a plane. She looks up and there it is. A rescue plane flying directly overhead. She waved, she screamed, she thought for sure, this is it, I'm saved. But the very same jungle canopy that had cushioned her fall now concealed her. It was just too thick. They couldn't see her. The plane flew on, disappearing over the horizon. The official search was now truly over. So, on the 10th day, she's weak from starvation, her wounds are getting seriously infected, and she is right on the edge of giving up.
And as she's stumbling along the riverbank, she sees something that she thought must be a hallucination. A small boat tied to the shore, and right next to it, a small hut. The hut was empty, but inside, she found a can of gasoline. And in this moment of pure desperation, her unique upbringing came to her rescue again. She remembered her father using gasoline to disinfect wounds on their animals. Fighting through unbelievable pain, she poured the fuel into an open wound on her arm and pulled out over 30 maggots that had been burrowing into her flesh. The next day, 3 local lumbermen came back to the hut. Now, imagine you're them. When they saw this ghostly, pale girl with swollen eyes and tattered clothes emerge from the jungle, they were terrified. They thought she was a yakumama, a mythical water spirit from their folklore, and they almost ran away. So after 11 harrowing days, Julianne was finally safe. But the jungle, it never really left her. Haunted by what she'd lost, but also forever connected to the place that both took her mother and saved her life, she ended up following in her parents' footsteps. She became a renowned zoologist, dedicating her life to preserving the very same rainforest she once fought so hard to escape. But here is the most tragic and honestly the most powerful twist in this entire story. Later on, when investigators finally reached the crash site, they found something shocking. Julian wasn't the only one who survived the fall. 14 other people did too. Think about that. 14 other people were alive on the jungle floor. But unlike Julianne, they were too badly injured to move. They couldn't get up to look for water, they couldn't search for help, they were stranded. They all died waiting for a rescue that never came. And that, right there, is the crucial difference. Giuliani's survival wasn't just about the incredible luck of the fall. It was about what she did next. It was about her knowledge, her resilience, and her absolute refusal to just give up. Her story just forces us to ask this profound question. We all face our own jungles, right? Our own impossible odds. And it makes you wonder, when everything seems lost, what is that line that separates pure, dumb luck from the unbreakable will to live?